In this Monday morning with the latest out of Washington. Today, House Democrats plan to call on Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from office.
All this coming, of course, in the wake of the deadly riots at the Capitol last week, where some lawmakers on both sides say there must be consequences for President Trump inciting the riot.
So here's the latest on the impeachment front. It seems that Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives are putting pressure on President Trump to step down right away. If he decides not to, they're ready to jump right into impeachment proceedings as soon as Monday. Their reasons: they accuse him of abusing his power by making statements at a pro-Trump rally that supposedly inspired the attack on Capitol Hill last Wednesday. Interestingly, the White House has already made it clear that the president isn't planning to resign. There's even some buzz about Trump thinking about pardoning himself before his term ends, which experts are saying would be a real first for any president.
It's an amazing phenomenon. You know, you win the presidency, and we sure as hell are having a successful presidency, I will say that. But even if it's a successful presidency, there's been nothing like what we're doing. We had a very good day 2 days ago, too. But even if it's successful, they don't win. I don't know what it is. There's something psychological, like you vote against. You can win by a lot. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions. We won everything.
Now, thinking about the framers of the Constitution, they really believed in the idea that no one, not even the president, is above the law. They worked hard to set up a system where people wouldn't be judging their own cases, so a self-pardon could break those fundamental principles. Honestly, it seems pretty unlikely that he would go through with it. Imagine being Donald Trump for a moment. He thought he had dodged impeachment, not once, but twice. Sure, he got impeached during his first term over Ukraine, and then again for the events of January 6th, but both times he walked away with a Senate acquit claiming total exoneration. He must have thought, that's it for impeachment. I'm in my second term now. They can't touch me.
They impeached me. I never knew I was going to be impeached. I get a phone call, you just got impeached. I said, what does that mean? It took them 10 minutes. They impeached the president who did a damn good job. I rebuilt our military, Space Force. I got everything. I did a lot. They impeached me for nothing, twice.
But looking at Congress now, he realizes impeachment isn't just in the past, it's actually ramping up. House Democrats aren't just idle. They're filing real articles of impeachment with several resolutions and various members bringing multiple charges against him, all aimed squarely at him. Take, for example, the resolution from Representative Srianadar.
People see this president has conducted impeachable misconduct. This president and his actions have been unconstitutional. This president has broken the law. He has abused the power of his office.
It lists 7 articles of impeachment, including obstruction of justice, abuse of trade powers, and even bribery and corruption, not to mention creating an unlawful office in violations of the First Amendment. That's 7 separate impeachable offenses, all documented and filed, and that's just one resolution. There's another one sitting in the Judiciary Committee from May 2025, targeting him for high crimes and misdemeanors as well. To top it all off, there's also a charge from Representative Al Green accusing him of abuse of power for calling for the execution of members of Congress.
I choose to stand on the grounds laid by the founders and framers of the Constitution. I stand today to announce that at the conclusion of this 1-minute message, I will bring articles of impeachment to the attention of the House of Representatives.
Labeling their actions as treasonous. It's a whirlwind over there, and it feels like things are only heating up. So it looks like things are heating up in Congress. There's been a significant push for impeachment, and it's quite shocking when you think about it. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene even took it upon herself to force a vote on the matter, and there were 140 members who wanted to see this move happen. The Democrats had to step in and put a stop to it, but the support is clearly there, just not enough for a majority at this point. Then there's Representative Suzanne Bonamici, who made quite the statement in January 2026, insisting that Trump should be impeached.
Suzanne Bonamici, Oregon's 1st District. I support the impeachment of President Donald J. Trump. He has violated the United States Constitution and many federal laws. He's incited violence and militarized and weaponized immigration enforcement in this country, resulting in multiple violations of due process and even the loss of life.
She laid out a whole list of reasons: inciting violence, misusing immigration enforcement, conducting military operations without permission, and even firing numerous federal workers. She believes these are all solid grounds for impeachment. And she's not alone in her feelings. Over 70 Democrats are backing this impeachment movement, and multiple senior members have gone on record with their opinion that impeachment is necessary. But it's not just aimed at Trump. They're targeting his cabinet, too. Representative Robin Kelly has filed impeachment articles against DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, accusing her of violating the Constitution, obstructing oversight, and terrorizing communities through ICE.
This morning, Illinois Democratic Congresswoman Robin Kelly formally introduced articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, saying Noem needs to be held accountable for her actions. Over 70 House Democrats signed on to co-sponsor the articles of impeachment.
I want to tell her right now, Secretary Noem, you have violated your oath of office, and there will be consequences.
Among other serious charges, Bonamici is clear that both Trump and Noem need to be impeached, which ties them together in this multi-seated impeachment effort. Now, Democrats are being pretty straightforward about their plans if they manage to regain a majority in the House during the 2026 midterms. They're ready to bring impeachment back into the spotlight. This isn't just some idle threat. They've got a real plan to bring these resolutions to the floor for a vote. If they get the chance, they'll take action against Trump, his cabinet, and anyone else they can. The situation is shaping up to be a storm of impeachment articles waiting for the Democrats to get control. No one can stop resolutions from being filed or silence voices calling for impeachment. If the Democrats flip just 5 seats in those upcoming elections, impeachment becomes a real threat. We could see a third impeachment, and for the first time, an impeachment of a cabinet member all happening at once. That could create quite the constitutional crisis. All that anyone can do for now is hope the Republicans can hold on to the House, because if they don't, the impending storm might just become a reality in the near future. Supreme Court would uphold a self-pardon, but there's not any legal statutes that we can point to or precedent or case law because it has not been tried before. Now, if the House approves articles of impeachment, the Senate would need a 2/3 majority to convict. Still, the soonest the Senate could even begin an impeachment trial would be January 20th. That's Inauguration Day. Reporting live in the newsroom this morning, I'm Bianca Reyes, Fox 59 News. Bianca, thank you. Small businesses have bared the brunt of the CO-19. So the talk around self-pardons is heating up, but there's a catch. We don't have any legal guidelines or cases to reference since this situation has never been tested in court before. If the House decides to go ahead with articles of impeachment, the Senate will need 2/3 of its members to vote for conviction. It's interesting to note that the soonest they could kick off an impeachment trial would be January 20th, which just happens to be Inauguration Day. Now let's take a look at what's officially filed right now. There's a resolution, House Resolution 353, brought forth by Representative Parshrian Nadar in April 2025. This resolution includes 7 articles of impeachment against Trump. The first article accuses him of obstruction of justice and violation of due process, claiming he's been interfering with the courts and even engaging in forced disappearances. That's a pretty serious statement. It's almost like we're talking about kidnapping, which raises major human rights concerns when it's the president of the United States involved. Moving on, the second article charges him with usurping Congress's power over appropriations, basically alleging he withheld funds against congressional spending laws. That includes the foreign aid freeze, where Trump tried to block billions, leading the Supreme Court to step in and make him release that money. And there are 5 more articles in that resolution covering abuse of trade powers, international aggression, First Amendment violations, the creation of an unlawful office, bribery, corruption, and, believe it or not, tyranny. All of this is crammed into one resolution, with Trump facing a slew of impeachable offenses, patiently sitting in the Judiciary Committee, waiting for the Democrats to rally enough votes to push forward. So let's break down how many impeachment resolutions are on the table, what they're charging him with, and just how close Trump is to a third impeachment. We're diving into some real detailed legislative documents that are bringing specific high crimes and misdemeanors to light against Trump and his cabinet. Let me tell you about these 7 articles, each highlighting different impeachable offenses, and it's honestly quite a lot to take in. The first article really digs into obstruction of justice and violations of due process. It charges Trump with obstructing the courts and interfering with the judicial process. We're talking about defying court orders and engaging in something pretty serious, what they call enforced disappearances. This term from international law refers to government agents secretly detaining people without any due process or even acknowledging they're being held. It suggests that Trump's administration is doing this specifically with immigration enforcement, deporting individuals without hearings and using secret detention facilities. The language here is heavy. It's all framed as human rights violations when applied to an American president. Moving on to the second article, it tackles the separation of powers and constitutional issues around appropriations. Congress holds the power of the purse, which means they're the ones who allocate money. The president is supposed to spend it as directed. Simply refusing because he has a different opinion on the budget is not how it works. Yet Trump has consistently tried to do just that. We've seen examples like the aid freeze, where he withheld funds that Congress approved and attempted to redirect money without proper authorization. These actions challenge the legislative authority, and this article calls it all impeachable. The third article focuses on abuse of trade powers and international aggression. Here, it's noted that Trump imposed tariffs without the necessary statutory authority and took military actions without Congress's approval, bombing other countries and deploying troops without clearance. The resolution suggests this is an abuse of executive authority exceeding what's allowed for a president, and it too is considered impeachable. Article 4 gets into First Amendment violations, which is an interesting twist. Trump has threatened to criminalize flag burning, something the Supreme Court protects as free speech. There's been the use of federal force against protesters and even threats towards the media. This all comes down to using government power to suppress speech and stifle dissent. When a president weaponizes their office against First Amendment rights, it crosses into impeachable territory. Lastly, Article 5 addresses the creation of unlawful positions. Trump is alleged to have set up jobs without congressional authorization, appointing people to roles that either don't legally exist or don't require Senate confirmation. Essentially, he's bypassed traditional protocols, creating what some call a shadow government structure. Quite a lot to unpack, don't you think? It's interesting how the articles of impeachment lay out the arguments against Trump. The first few point out that he's only loyal to himself, which really throws off the separation of powers. When he undermines the Senate's authority to provide advice and consent, it's a clear violation, and that's grounds for impeachment. Specifically, Article 6 highlights bribery and corruption. It discusses how Trump is using his position for personal gain, like when foreign governments are paying for his properties and business deals are tied to presidential decisions. This kind of corruption is classic, and the Constitution specifically calls out bribery as impeachable. The Founding Fathers knew that corruption could tear apart democracy, which is why they included it so clearly. Then we have Article 7, which is about tyranny. It says that Trump's actions accumulate into what we could classify as a tyrannical presidency. He operates as if he's above the law, ignores the courts, attacks democratic institutions, and threatens anyone who stands in his way. He punishes enemies and rewards allies from his office. All the things impeachment was designed to prevent. This article states that Trump has crossed a serious line. So that's just a piece of what's laid out in House Resolution 353. There are 7 articles in total, each one detailing different impeachable offenses and backed by solid constitutional and legal arguments. They're all just sitting in the Judiciary Committee ready to move forward if the Democrats get a majority. But wait, there's more. There's also House Resolution 415, filed in May 2025, which follows the same theme of impeaching Donald John Trump for high crimes and misdemeanors, and has been referred to the House Judiciary Committee as well. This resolution brings additional charges piling on the pressure. And then there's Al Green's Resolution 939, which actually made it to a vote. Green used a privileged resolution procedure to force the House to consider impeachment based on specific behavior. This included a post-Trump maid calling for the execution of Democratic members of Congress, labeling their actions as treasonous and suggesting they deserve the death penalty. That's a blatant abuse of power, using the presidential platform to threaten lawmakers just because they didn't agree with him. Green certainly viewed it as impeachable, and he pushed for the House to vote on it between December 10th and 11th, 2025. The results were telling, with 140 members voting in favor of moving forward with the articles of impeachment, showing there was substantial support for the move. So, here's the scoop. Nearly a third of the House members are on board with the idea that Trump's threats against Congress could lead to impeachment and removal from office. However, the Democratic leadership decided to take a step back and voted present, which essentially shelved the resolution. They're looking for a more strategic approach, wanting to build a comprehensive case and see what the landscape looks like after the midterms in 2026. But the vote definitely showed there's a hunger for action, a clear sign that support exists. They're just waiting for the right moment and the right votes. Now, let's not forget about the cabinet impeachment side of things. On January 13th, 2026, Representative Robin Kelly came forward with articles against DHS Secretary Christine Oman. She's charging Oman with some serious issues like violating the Constitution, blocking congressional oversight, and even terrorizing communities through ICE enforcement. That's a lot to unpack, and over 70 Democrats are backing this move, making it another front in what could be a bigger impeachment effort. Representative Suzanne Bonamici has also made some strong connections between Trump and Oman's impeachments, stating both should face the music. She pointed to Trump's actions like inciting violence, misusing immigration enforcement through DHS, conducting unauthorized military operations, and illegally firing thousands of federal workers as solid grounds for impeachment. And she argues that by carrying out Trump's unconstitutional orders, Oman is just as complicit and should be impeached as well. Right now, Trump is up against 3 separate resolutions. H.R. Resins 353 has 7 articles, HRES 415 features additional charges, and HRES 939 focuses on the threats against Congress alongside the cabinet impeachment of Oman. Each of these is active and building towards what could be a significant wave of impeachment if the Democrats manage to secure the votes. While the Democratic leaders are being tactical about their next steps, they've made it clear what they intend to do. An analysis from the Washington Post shows that while top Democrats aren't aligned for immediate impeachment yet, several leaders have openly stated that if they regain a majority in the House during the midterms in 2026, impeachment will definitely be back on the table. No may or possibilities here. It's a firm plan. They're ready to bring these filed resolutions to the floor for a vote. They've laid the groundwork, building their case, documenting violations, and setting up a legislative framework to move swiftly if the time comes. Trump's feeling the heat, and he knows it. With the Democrats plotting an impeachment offensive, he's been privately warning Republicans that if they lose the House, impeachment is definitely in his future. This isn't just a casual guess. It's his actual fear based on what he sees happening. There are resolutions already filed, and he's aware that 140 members have backed the resolution put forth by Marjorie Taylor Greene, which means if the Democrats gain the majority, all these resolutions could move forward and potentially FATS,